This is my story too, and I have the right to tell my story.
It began, as most things do, not with an explosion, but with silence. That silence crept into Kody Brown's life quietly, almost respectfully, like an old friend who no longer needed an invitation. One morning, he stood in the center of his kitchen, the same kitchen where voices used to clash, coffee used to steam, and the chaos of family once echoed loud and alive, and realized something chilling. No one was coming downstairs. The once loud house had grown cold, empty, not just in the rooms, but in the spaces that used to be filled by love and warmth and friction. What was once 4 wives, 18 children, and a carousel of interwoven chaos and connection was now just Kody alone. But his collapse wasn't sudden. No, it was a slow erosion, one heartbreak at a time. One silence after another, the first true crack in his fortress came not from scandal, but from a woman he thought would always stay. Christine, her departure wasn't loud, but it was final, and it broke something inside of him that day. Something he didn't even realize could break. The silence she left behind was louder than any argument they ever had. He tried to hold on, to control the narrative, to make sense of it all. But control was a mirage. He stood at family meetings, voice raised, trying to be the patriarch he once was, but the eyes that once looked to him for guidance had turned inward, toward each other. They no longer needed a leader. They needed healing. And Kody couldn't offer healing. He could offer rules, restrictions, resentment. He watched, helpless, as Meri's eyes stopped meeting his. As Janelle began showing up only when absolutely necessary, and Robyn, his last remaining ally, grew quieter by the day. His foundation was trembling beneath him, but he refused to admit it was cracking until that one night. It was a Thursday. Winter snow fell in thick, slow, motion flakes outside their Flagstaff home, covering the driveway, the roof, and the weight of everything they hadn't said to each other. Inside, the tension was unbearable. Meri had come by unannounced, Janelle followed behind her, and Robyn was already there, curled on the edge of the couch, arms folded tightly across her chest. No one spoke at first, but the air in the room said everything. Then came the question from Janelle, calm, measured, but deadly. "Do you even love us anymore, Kody?" That was it, the sentence that fractured the last thread of illusion. The room froze. Robyn looked down. Meri stared straight ahead, and Kody blinked twice. Then opened his mouth, and no words came. For the first time in decades, he had nothing to say. The master of control, of confrontation, of commanding presence, was silent. That silence stretched for minutes. Janelle eventually shook her head, muttered, "That's what I thought," and walked out. Meri followed. Robyn didn't move, and Kody just stood there, his breath visible in the cold room, as if the house itself had given up on pretending to be warm. After that, things unraveled faster than he could catch them. Calls stopped coming. Family events were scheduled without him. He began noticing things he hadn't before. Empty chairs at the dinner table, group texts he wasn't part of, birthday parties missed. Even the kids, the ones who once rushed into his arms, now kept their distance. Not out of anger, but something worse, disappointment. Kody retreated. He stopped speaking in long sentences. His tone grew hollow. He spent hours alone in the garage, or sitting in the truck, just parked, engine off, staring into the middle distance. He avoided mirrors. He avoided questions. He avoided himself. The pressure built silently, not a public explosion, but a private implosion, one invisible crack after another. Then came the turning point. A letter arrived, handwritten, folded neatly, left on the hallway table by someone who no longer needed to speak face to face. It was from one of the older kids. "Kody," it began, "not Dad, just Kody, because I don't know who that person is anymore." The words were sharp, not cruel but honest, in a way that cut deeper than any fight could. The letter spoke of absence, of broken trust, of watching a father disappear behind rules and control, and it ended with a line Kody would replay in his head every night after. "I hope you figure out who you are, because I stopped waiting." That night, Kody sat in the backyard, snow around his feet. No jacket, Just the letter in one hand and a glass of something strong in the other. And for the first time, he cried, not the kind of crying you can explain away, the kind that empties your lungs and leaves you shaking, gasping, desperate. The silence around him echoed that grief. Not even Robyn came out. She stood at the window, hand on the glass, but didn't move. She knew this wasn't something she could fix, and neither could he. But this wasn't the collapse. This was the moment before, and the real collapse. That came next.